Should the Sharks claim Filip Zadina? Plus, the development camp rosters are out, so we're going to look at all the players, kind of see what is expected from them, and get to know a little bit of everybody on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now and Inside the Rink, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. As if you haven't subscribed to YouTube, we're like really close to 2K. So please, now's a great time to do so. And we're going to be talking about, starting the episode by talking about Filip Zadina and why I think the Sharks should claim Filip Zadina, why I think it would be a smart move, a no-risk move for Mike Grier to claim a former top 10 pick in the NHL or an NHL draft from 2018, not that long ago. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to get to know some of the players on, some players to watch out for development camp as that kicks off on Tuesday. And then we have the development scrimmage on the prospect scrimmage on Thursday. So let's talk about Filip Zadina, who, again, the 6th overall pick in the 2018 NHL draft, placed on waivers on Monday by the Detroit Red Wings. So by the time you're hearing this, he could have been, we could already know Zadina's fate, but the Sharks, I think, should put a claim in for him. So quick reminder with claims right now. So claims until November 1st, claims are going to be in order of the draft. So the Sharks, since they picked 4th in the draft, they are 4th in claims. So that means Chicago, Anaheim, and Columbus are all in front of the Sharks right now when it comes to claims. After November 1st, it becomes an reverse order of the standings. So the worst team has the higher claim priority, et cetera, et cetera. So, but right now, order of the draft through November 1st. So, interesting move by the Red Wings to put him on waivers now. And what that tells me is that they're trying to see if somebody can maybe grab him from them. Because if you wanted to put him on waivers so you could play in the AHL, want to keep him, maybe you do it closer to this season when you have a bunch of waiver activity and there's a bunch of kind of moving pieces around, and people are maybe more likely to just kind of, stand pat. They're trying to get their own guys through waivers, all that fun stuff. But to do it now in the middle of free agency, when, again, especially right now, we'll finish up the 3rd day of free agency and things are starting to really quiet down. I know there's still a couple of names out there in trades potentially, but just interesting to do it now. And I think that's the Red Wings trying to be like, please come and get him, because I guess they maybe just aren't happy with his development so far. And there's plenty of reason for that. But I think for a team like the Sharks, it makes a lot of sense to claim Zadina. So let's dig into his numbers and what his production has been like so far. And again, it is not the prettiest, okay? So he has 2 years left on his deal at $1.825 million AAV. So basically under $2 million for the next 2 seasons. Last year, he only played 30 games in the NHL. He broke a leg and was out for, basically played the first 9 games. And then he missed a huge chunk of the season until February. And then he played. So, but 3 goals, 4 assists, 51 shots on goal, 1306 average time on ice, 4801 Corsi for 42.11% goals for. Again, I know those numbers are not the prettiest numbers when it comes to, potentially adding a player. Looking at his WAR, this is from JFresh, 44 percentile WAR, even strength offense, 82 percentile there, finishing 6 percentile. So he's creating offense. He's just kind of has a little bit of Noah Gregor in him where he's just not able to kind of finish right now. So, yeah, his goals per 60 and assists per 60, not great. Primary assists per 60, not great. Even strength defense, 41 percentile. Does a good job of drawing penalties and not taking penalties. So we kind of played a fourth line minutes last year. So, I'm not sure if the coaching staff is just not happy with it. Well, clearly the front office is just not happy with Zadina's development, or they wouldn't have placed him on waivers today. But looking at his athletic for the athletic card. So again, lower time on ice, defensive usage is definitely increased over the past couple of years. Like if you look, especially the 21-22 season was bad defensively, but he was a really, solid defensive player, at least last season. His assists and points and stuff aren't really anything to home, but just kind of right home. But I think it feels like he's doing some stuff offensively, but it's just not getting rewarded for it, unfortunately. So looking at his hockey prospecting development card. So again, when he was drafted, he was a 53 percentile chance to be an NHLer. Reminder, NHLers, someone who plays 200 games, 25% star producer. Now, after his D3 season, he was a 92 percentile NHLer, which means 200 games and 8% star. So he's not going to live up to the hype of being a potential, of being a second or a first round pick, a top 10 pick. But this is the type of move I think the Sharks should take a swing on, right? It costs you nothing to acquire him. He is literally free on the waiver wires. You just have to put a claim in for him. His contract isn't bad, right? Again, right now the Sharks contract cap situation as of tonight, $5.6 million in free cap space, with 45 of 50 contracts and a roster size of 22 of 23. Again, some of those defensemen are probably going to move. You have, not everybody. I don't think, Giovanni Smith is a potential guy who could be, kind of playing up and down between the Barracuda. Like you have some guys who are potentially going to be playing up and down between the Sharks and the Barracuda. But he's still, being Zadina is still really young. He's 23. He'll be 24 at the beginning of next year. And I know, again, the scoring numbers and stuff aren't great. He's had his best season so far has been 14 points in 74 games, or 24 points, in 74 games with 10 goals and 14 assists. That's his best season so far. And I know last season, of course, dealing with an injury, but he's still a talented player. So here's what Corey Pronman wrote about him for his draft year. Zadina has been a highly touted prospect for years. He had a great World Juniors and was a top player in the queue this season. On a tools level, he's one of the most dynamic players in the draft. Zadina skates well with a powerful stride that eats up ice efficiently. His value comes from his skills and shot. He has near elite grade hands, which allows him to be quick and elusive. He can create as a playmaker, tends to make good decisions moving the puck, and he's known as a trigger man with one of the best wrist shots in the draft class. What I love about Zadina is how multidimensional he is. He can attack defenses by dangling around guys. He can protect pucks and drive around guys. He can power his way past defenders or utilize an inch of space to score from long distance. He's a highly competitive player who gets high marks for his character and competes his butt off to win puck battles on the ice. He's a complete package offensively and a potential difference maker on any given shift. That sounds like a Mike Grier, like exactly the type of player Mike Grier wants. I think the Sharks should do it. Put in a claim. You get Zadina in your building, maybe a change of scenery, whatever it is, maybe different development, change of scenery, new guys around you, whatever it is. I think it's worth it. If, again, it's 2 years at under $2 million for a team that has plenty of cap space, this season, is going to have a ton of cap space next season as well. So I think acquiring a top 10 talent prospect for free is something you should do. And if it doesn't work out, cool. You took a swing. You keep taking swings on talented players. This is part of that roster churning phase of the Sharks right now, is trying to find talented players who can help your team down the road. And I think Zadina, again, he's still young enough. He's 23. He'll be 24 in November. He's been playing in the NHL since he was 19. Granted, he hasn't had the most, consistent, and he's struggled with consistencies, and he's, missed a good chunk of last year with a leg injury. But I think that this is a gamble the Sharks should do, especially after the success they have with Mikey Eyssimont, getting, kind of finding these guys like Alexander Barabanov. I know that was a trade, but, look at Jacob Peterson last year. Taking a swing on these guys and see what they can do with maybe a different cast around them. And worst case scenario, again, it's 2 years at under $2 million. You can always waive them and send them to the Barracuda or you waive them and maybe somebody else, he becomes somebody else's problem. So before we continue and we look at some of the prospects, some of the new faces that are going to be around for development camp, I do need to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. And we know it's baseball season now. It is basically the only sport available. So that doesn't mean you have to end your betting fun just because you only have baseball on. So baseball right now, FanDuel is going to make it super easy. You can take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's a $200 you can spend on everything from betting from the money line, over under, who you think is going to hit a home run. Always like the player props, like is Ohtani going to get a home run or is Judge going to hit a home run? Like those things are just fun because it's always fun to watch superstars do superstar things. So you can do all this on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. And plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. So there's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so now we finally have our roster for the Sharks. So that came out today. So we'll start by looking at the forwards and kind of a little bit of expectations for these guys. So of course you have. We'll go. I think they have an alphabetical order. I have no idea what order this is. Oh. Yeah, it's alphabetical. Sorry. So you have Bordeleau. Of course, I think Bordeleau needs to have a very, very strong preseason and camp as he's probably going to be fighting for an NHL job. I still think he starts the season in the Barracuda, but I think a strong camp would go a long way for him. Beasted, kind of the same thing. I still think he goes back to the SHL this season, but if he's impressive in camp and is doing all the little things, maybe they keep him here in the AHL to play with the Barracuda. But I still think it's back to the SHL for Beasted. So Cardwell, who's going to be a Barracuda player this year, coming off a super strong season in the OHL, was named the Sharks Prospect of the Year last year, and want to see if he can continue to grow on this and continue to develop going forward. So Brandon Coe played last year at the Barracuda, and I think we all slightly disappointed with Coe with his kind of production and the way he played. And I think for him kind of, refining that confidence in his game and what to expect, and being an everyday player instead of every other day player that he was last season, where he missed, was scratched for a good chunk of the game. So Eklund, we won't see on the ice. He's still rehabbing his shoulder, but he wanted to come. Grier, I asked Grier about Eklund coming. He said he wanted to come. He wanted to be there and kind of be around the guys and provide that leadership, which is what we love to hear from our Swedish son. So, Eklund, I think, just kind of growing into that leadership role, and that, these are these baby steps for him, and especially as one of the, future guys for the Sharks, kind of being one of these guys for some of these newer teammates. This is, this is now his third. Oh my gosh, that's already his third development camp. Oh my goodness. But since he's been here and done that, being one of these guys, especially for these younger players. So, Gushin, I think we're going to see a big year from Gushin. So continuing to build, show that you've been kind of working on that strength and all that fun gym stuff. So I think Gushin being the guy on the Barracuda next year. So Kasper Halttunen wearing number 10, which I think is intriguing. They already gave him a good number already, so at least so far. So, I think for him, just kind of getting used to some of the guys around, all that fun stuff, getting used to meeting everybody with a lot of these rookies, right? It's kind of meeting everybody and kind of learning from the coaching staff. And if we can see some flashes from them type of thing. Jack Horvath, who's a tryout, he played for Wisconsin in the Big Ten last year. Kind of been a UCHL guy for the past couple of seasons. I think he played 4 UCHL seasons. So he had 8 points in 32 games last year. I think this is just kind of a tryout. See if you can maybe find something there for him. So Theo Jacobson, who was a draft pick in the 21 class. Again, he had okay season last year, especially in the juniors, but really didn't do much, too much in kind of the upper levels. So for him, I think he's just going to continue to kind of marinate over in the in the SHL. So David Klee, kind of same thing, right? Getting your feet wet, getting used to everything in San Jose. Reese Labak, building off a strong end of the season, right? Was pretty quiet in dev camp last year. But, former 7th round pick, hometown guy. See if we can see some flashes from him. Cam Lund, who's wearing 46. So interesting. Also, Reese Labak, 80. I know he wants that 8 really bad, but that's not going to happen. So 80 makes a lot of sense. Cam Lund, I think we're going to see a big season from him in Northeastern. We saw some pieces and flashes of it last year. Can he continue to do that going forward? So Bradley Merrick, he another kind of college guy who's a tryout. So some of these tryouts, right? Matanya Ajibuchi, former tryout guy who kind of earned his AHL, Nick Cicek. A lot of these are important, camp and development, just kind of show that things that they're learning and they're picking up the system and can kind of show some flashes, right? So I think the same thing for Merrick. Joey Madoni, pick from last year, the USHL, had a really solid season, 15 goals last year. Again, building on that as he's getting ready to head off to college here soon. Quentin Musty got a real number at number 13, which I think Musty 13, just that is a solid jersey if you ask me. So same thing with Musty, right? Just getting to know everyone, kind of figuring things out. So Robbins, no new number for Robbins, but Robbins. Again, I think this is a big year, just like Gushin, right? This is a big year. You're going to have the path in front of you. I think Robbins is going to be kind of considered to be one of the guys, and I think having a big season for him. Mitchell Russell, who basically he played 2 games last year, and then that was it. Had an assist. Can we see anything from Mitchell Russell, right? And then Will Smith, of course, we just want to see our shiny new toy out there doing stuff. It's really sad we won't get to see Russell, Smith and Eklund on the ice together, but how does Smith and Bordeleau play together? How does Smith and Robbins play together? How does Smith play with some of the other guys? That's what, we want to see. Spitzeroff, whatever. Brandon Svoboda wearing number 88. He won't be keeping that number forever, but Svoboda wearing number 88. I kind of want to, I'm interested to see, right? The Sharks traded up for him. Again, kind of a bit bigger guy. Can we see something what can we see out of him? So Cam Thiesing, I believe, played Ohio State also in a tryout, had 15 goals last year for the Buckeyes in 40 games. That's pretty solid. So maybe one of those you keep an eye on him. I think he can still go back and play for Ohio State. But if it's one of those guys where maybe you kind of bookmark him, and then when his Ohio State season's over, you can sign him to to an AHL type of deal after that. So see how things go. Danny Waite played for Colorado College last year, had 1 goal in 22 games. Ozzy Weisblatt, big season for Weisblatt, especially in the Barracuda, right? being that kind of same thing with Bryn and Co, being that everyday type of player instead of an every other day type of player. And then, of course, my cousin, Alex Young. So he did transfer. He's going to be going to a different school this summer or the next off season. But, he's started to kind of put things together, at least scoring wise. Can he continue, and earn that ELC when he's done with this season? So that's it for the forward group. We'll talk about the defense and the goalies here, and there's some intriguing names, and I think with the goalies we'll talk about here in a second. And there's a lot of battles that are going to be happening here. So guys trying to get a good head start going into the training camp. But before we do that, do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Again, proudly a part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do, just come back tomorrow. We're going to be revisiting, at least the plan is, sans there's any crazy trades, revisiting the 2018 draft class. They say you can't judge a class until after the 5 years. Well, it's been 5 years now since the 2018 draft class. We're going to go back, see how that draft class looked, and what we can try to learn from that. So, again, just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. All right, on the back end, Eli Barnett, he's going to be heading off to college here. So wearing number 81, I think that's just an interesting number for a defenseman. Anyway, big guy, remember, 6'6", 220. Very much a stay-at-home defenseman, but popped in 9 points last year in 52 games in the PCHL. Luca Cagnoni, who's going to be wearing number 42. Very much feels like could be a potential steal in this year's draft of getting him at pick 123. Really excited to see Cagnoni out there. He's with these small defensemen. It's either they're going to be really good or they just never kind of make it. There's really no in between for them. And I think, we're plenty of time for Cagnoni, but that kid just seems to have that mindset of he's going to make things work. So Nick Cicek, of course, made his NHL debut last year. He's going to be one of the kind of older guys who are going to be helping out a lot of these younger guys. They usually bring a couple of these guys around to kind of, show everybody the way. So, Cicek is going to be that guy for the forwards. I guess it's going to be William Eklund is going to be that guy for the Sharks. He's pretty much the most tenured guy, him and Bordeleau, among the forwards. So, but yeah, he's going to be that guy. Bradham Engum, 6'2", played for UMass last year, had 1 goal, 4 assists, and 36 points. So sounds like a big boy right there. Michael Fisher, wearing number 43, basically missed the entire season due to an injury. So I think for him, really, I think having a strong camp heading into another USHL season is probably the best thing for, just being healthy. Ethan Furch, who was a free agent signing by the Barracuda last season, played 7 games with the Barracuda last year, was also played with North Dakota, where he had 18 points in 36 games. So he is going to be fighting for a Barracuda job going into this offseason, and, especially this defense that is there's some names in front of him, but he's gonna be fighting for one of these jobs here going into with the Barracuda. So again, just having those strong camps, right, can set you up for success. And then Jake Furlong had a really nice season in the Q last year, 50 points in 67 games. Of course, his Halifax went pretty deep into the playoffs as well. So again, I expect he's going back to the queue, but can we see some flashes, right? Artem Guryev, who was that 21 pick, will be playing for the Barracuda this year, and I think he's going to be kind of fighting for one of those spots. And it seems like he's the 6'4", 220, left-handed. That's sounds like what Mike Grier wants, right? He wants these big kind of moving defensemen. And after he got traded to Flint, Georgy really, really found his game offensively with 15 points in 38 games compared to 1 assist in 9 games for Petersburg. Havlet, I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Havlet, right? Missed the first half of the season with a back injury. Solid second half of the season. Going to be going back to the SHL, but I think, it's kind of expect to want to see a solid season or solid start for him of the season. So Steven Holtz also want to try out. Played for Michigan last year, a little bit older. He was born 99, so that puts him at like 24. Had 7 points in 25 games for them. 6'3", 190 pounds, so a big boy right-handed shot. Evgeny Kashnikov, who was a 21 draft pick, had 10 points last year in the KHL, which is pretty impressive. Also 6'6", 205. So, and then Alex Landon, one of the draft picks this year, wearing number 47. Galen LaRock, number change for him, wearing number 28 now. Had 5 points in 4 games, but want to see him. I don't think he's going to be playing or doing any on-ice stuff. He's still rehabbing. So I expect him to be back with Victoria next season, especially because he is on the younger end of the scale. And I think they want to see a full healthy season out of him before he comes over to the Barracuda. So Mukama Dillon, of course, number 85. We saw flashes of him as the season, at the end of the season, scoring, 10 points in 12 games. He's going to be the guy for the Barracuda this year. So is running the power, most likely going to be running the power play, all that fun stuff. So Eric Poolkamp, one of their draft picks from this year, 5'10", 200 pounds. Hope we got to see the ocean. Hope so. Valtteri Pulli, wearing number 97, which I like. I think it's a baller move. So 6'5", 210, 17 points in 53 games in Liga last year. Was signed. We'll kind of see. I think he's on a 2-year deal. I think if he doesn't make the Sharks out of camp, I think he's going back to Liga. So he needs to have a very strong camp, I think, to starting in dev camp here. And of course, Henry Thrun, who I don't think has stopped playing hockey anywhere in the past 9 months, because between playing for Harvard and the Sharks and the World Championships, he's going to be fighting for an NHL job. So, and then finally, the goalies. So we have Mason Beaupet, of course, was the pick last year. Struggled with Spokane. Spokane was a very bad team. Had a much better half of the season in Winnipeg. Winnipeg was a very awesome team. So it's how much of it was playing on a bad team, how much was playing on a good team. So I think Beaupet really needs to go out and have a good season for no longer the Winnipeg Jets. They moved to Washington. So, or not the Winnipeg Jets, the Winnipeg Ice, whatever their new team is now in the WHL over in Washington. So, of course, we have Magnus Chrona going to be making his pro debut, going to be fighting for that backup job behind, behind McAnemy. So, 6'5", 210, big boy. There's a reason why they call him big time. But really great season last year. 219 goals against average. He was really, really good for Denver, and I expect him. I think he's the favorite to win the backup job right now between him and Georgy Romanov. But coming out and kind of starting to put things together. So Dylan Ernst, who plays for the Blazers in the WHL, he's a tryout, 6'2", 195 pounds, 269 goals against the average, had a 906 save percentage last year. Really turned it on in the playoffs, though. He had 3 shutouts in 14 games in the playoffs for the Blazers. 257 goals against average, 913 save percentage, and went 10-3 and 1 in I don't know how you have a 1 in the playoffs, but anyway. So he, just one of those guys where you kind of keep an eye on him. If he does well, maybe they sign him out after the season type of thing. So, and then finally, Georgy Romanov, who I think we just want to see a real person, right? The mystery box from Russia, 6'5", 210, 281 goals against average last year in the VHL, which is basically the equivalent of the AHL in Russia. I don't think his team was very good in front of him because they went 8-13 and 5, but did have a shutout. So, but that Romanov Chrona, I think that's going to be big for who going into training camp and kind of solidifying that backup job. And, like I said, with a lot of these players, young players, is who can kind of flash or who can be consistent and kind of show something for the whether it's going to be for an NHL job or AHL job, all that fun stuff. So plenty more stuff from training camp this week. I believe Thursday is the development, the prospect camp game. Haven't heard anything about streaming, which makes me a little nervous that we haven't heard anything about it. And it's like 2 days out. So hopefully it's streaming. I would be really disappointed if it's not, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. So that's going to be it for me today. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow, talk about that 2018 draft class. And now it's been 5 years. We can kind of go back and revisit and see what mistakes that we can learn from, because there was some mistakes. So make sure you guys are following the show wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter, if it's still functioning, at My Fry Hole. And until tomorrow, bye, friends.